guys, and welcome. I am so happy to see a lot of familiar names coming up that I haven't seen in a while. So welcome back, guys. And that might have to do a little bit with the fact that we are back on Facebook, or at least we're trying to be back on Facebook, because it doesn't always play nice with third-party apps. So we're gonna keep it going and see if Facebook plays nice. You know, hopefully it does. And I can see that even Facebook people, your comments are showing up right here, so you can peruse. Sometimes I forget to read out the person's comment, and then you all are like, who's talking? You know, is she hearing voices? Which, listen, we're not going to, rule that out at the moment. So welcome, everybody, and we're gonna do a little bit of catch up, but for today, we're gonna attack a lot of the odds and ends that we need to do just to push through this final assembly now that we're doing. We have a lot of this stuff built, and this is for our Frankenstein inspired lightning detector. And for those of you that haven't joined for a while, well, let's catch everybody up before we, odds and ends everything. So we have our two halves of our miniatures here. Of course, the cliffs, and you'll see that I've cut out a portion of the cliffs because we're gonna put additional free-floating stones to meet up with our Frankenstein castle. And of course, this is from Young Frankenstein, which coincidentally is the same castle that was used in the black and white. But they're both black and white. I'm talking the one in the 1930s. So they actually used the same castle when you see that castle scene. So for this, you can tell that it is clearly not done. The poor thing is missing roofs. We have Frankenstein's laboratory right here. It has a paper roof on it. So, we have to fix that. But other than that, it's been painted. I think it looks pretty good. And our cliffs, we used a similar paint scheme, but a totally different technique. So we base coated this black, and you'll notice that coincidentally, this is also base coated black. So this is a part that we have to attack. We use a totally different technique here, whereas we did a lot of dry brushing for our castle. We did not wet brushing, but acrylic wash style for this. And this was base coated white. And we invented another word, base coated. And so I went ahead and turned this white into black so we can mimic the painting style that we see on the castle. And because we used very similar paint schemes for both, they kind of match, I think. And that was the idea. The idea was to make the cliffs look different enough, but not stand out like a sore thumb against our castle. So that's one of the to-do items on the list. So I'll put that aside. And once we wrap all this up, then we can actually see this thing work. And finally, if you all recall, our Bob Ross painting session where we just painted a sky, and of course we used acrylics versus Bob Ross's oils. And so his technique is a lot more well blended versus acrylics, but it actually turned out pretty well for my first painting here. And the fact that I think we use acrylics made this look more angry, more stormy. And you'll notice kind of this thing coming down here, and that is our lightning bolt that we're gonna light from behind using an LED strip. So I would say it was like 2 streams ago, we went ahead and programmed quite a few different patterns. We played around, figured out what we liked, and then last stream, we started to wire the thing. Oh yeah, and it was a struggle because it was my first time wiring up an LED strip. And the more I did it, the more kind of like a hang or a rhythm that I got into it. And then it started to move faster and faster. So then I just kind of continued on my own, but there's still a couple things left to wire. So that is like odd item number 2. After that, well, then we got to put this thing together. And so looking at it, those of you that have been with me since the beginning, this is our cathedral frame. And we're going to fit all this inside this frame. And so if I lay it down, and we have Brian Palmer here. He says, hi, Rachel. And we have Don Stricker, and thanks for that. Awesome. And then Mark Kaminsky is saying, I want to rock and roll all night too. Yes, they're actually on tour again, and I really want to go. Isn't this their like last of the last tour? Which, of course they'll tour again, but it's like their potentially their last tour around. I have to see them. It's a really fun show. Whether you're a Kiss fan or not a Kiss fan or what you think of their music, the show is fun. So just go. So we have our backing panel here, and I'm just going to switch to be able to kind of show you what we got here. And you'll see some ugly holes going on here. This is what we carved out last time that I have to touch up. And this is where our LEDs are going to shine through. They're going to shine through here as well. And then there's a couple more holes that I marked out that I still have to drill for our thunder clouds. And for that, we are going to use some leftover stuffing from the fart detector, the stuffed animal fart detector that we created. And so we're just gonna lay and do kind of like a cool 3D effect on top of the clouds and below the clouds, anywhere where we have holes, and LEDs are gonna shine lights through these puffballs, creating kind of like a thunderstorm happening inside of a cloud. So I think that'll be pretty cool. Brian is saying everything looks awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear we've been working super hard on this. And of course, David Beck is already feeding me virtual chicken legs and burgers. I'm sure more will come from these virtual buffets. That should like really be a thing, you know, virtual buffets. I love buffets, by the way. And then to top it all off, we actually have a real cathedral window that we aged together, and we used PVC trim right here and right here to create these raised stone type of effects. And then we just used some spackle and a brush, and I just went mashing it on there. Once it was all dry, you want to base coat it really, really well. And I used white because if you start using paint, if you start using, what's the term I'm looking for? The acrylic wash, where it's basically you water down black and then you paint it on as if, you know, it's a watercolor and it gets into all the crevices. If there's any spackle left that has not been totally covered in paint, it turns back into mush. And I learned that the hard way. So anytime you use texturizing with spackle, which is really great for creating miniature rock cliffs and miniature or any type of rock formation, be sure to cover it really, really well in either base coat paint or a product like Mod Podge, which is kind of like a glue type product. It can be used as a sealer or as glue. I love that stuff for foam miniatures. But let me see if I can start taking all of this apart. Joe G, boo, did I scare you? So Joe G is here. I haven't seen you in a while. And Carl James, of course, how is your brother? I haven't done any car shows quite yet, but these two guys always show up and say hi. They are awesome. And Timothy Hope is saying hello, everyone. And of course, you guys can see all the this way, all the comments appearing here, just in case you get lost or you're tuning in late, and you can see kind of what we've been up to. So, guys, that's kind of our to-do list. Which one do you want to tackle first? I was saying, since we did a lot of wiring, which was kind of like watching paint dry a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. One of the things I know that I absolutely want to get done is the painting, because we need it to dry overnight. After we paint it and we acrylic wash it, it needs to dry overnight before I kind of put that finishing touch on it. Rick Francis saying, hi, Rachel. Nelson Snipes, love the Gothic. I probably can't paint that, but I would definitely buy it. Yes, I have been asked before if we should put this stuff up on Etsy, but given the length of time it's taken me to do just one, yeah, that would be the slowest shop ever. Customers would be complaining like, I ordered this a year ago and it still hasn't arrived. I'm like, I'm working on it. But maybe we can come up with a set of miniatures, or maybe we can 3D print them or something. We need to find a way of mass producing these, because I think this is going to be a cool project. And then Carl saying, thank you for asking. I will tell him hi. Yes. Have him join us if he can here, you know, in chat. So I think I kind of want to like at least start this paint thing to get it out of the way, and then we can go back to the LEDs, because after all this is done, we're going to wire this thing to a control panel. We need a way to control turning it on and off, perhaps some components I'm going to put on a different switch. So we have a cool fog machine that we're going to hide in Frankenstein's tower here, because, you know, not all of experiments are going to go well. So we're going to see some smoke coming out of it. And the idea behind this is when our real deal lightning detector, which is this guy over here, not this guy, but this guy here, when our real deal lightning detector actually detects lightning, we wanted to do something. We wanted to tell us somehow. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can hook up a screen to it, so it'll tell you lightning was detected, how far away this lightning is, and give you that information. For our purposes, we don't need to know the exact mileage or the exact kilometers of how far this lightning detector is. So we might work in ranges. So if the lightning is 40 kilometers away, maybe some kind of lighting scheme will go off. If it's only 30, 20, 10, or if it's imminent, we can do different lighting schemes. So that's one thing to think about. And the other thing in our wiring is we were able to do some awesome different kind of animations along this strip, but it was always the same animation. So the other thing I'm trying to figure out is, can we break up a strip, say like this, and have, I'll give you guys a better view. There we go. Have like this section do something, this section do something, and this section do something. Or is it easier for each group to be wired separately so you can control them individually? So that's something that I'm still trying to toy with, and whatever leftover that we have this, I will probably just experiment around and then figure it out, which is one of the reasons when you look at what I've wired up so far, you'll see, let me give you guys a much closer look, and why don't I turn on the top light? Yes, look at that. Let there be light. So you'll see a green data wire that runs, and so this sends data between, among all the strips. And of course, I've just created gaps and things for our custom lightning. And then other times you will see no green wire, and you're like, what the hey, how are they going to talk to each other? And this is because I just haven't figured out if I'm connecting all of these as one LED strip, or if I'm going to connect separate shorter segments of LED strips to our Arduino. So I have not figured that out yet. If you are an Arduino expert and have done this before, definitely chime in and let me know which direction I should move in. Because I'm a beginner, I'll probably move in towards the path of least resistance. So Gel is back. He is saying, hey, Rachel, with a whole bunch of sunglass shades. So hey, back to you. And I think I'm gonna clear this and at least get this started so it can go drying, and then see kind of what our time looks like, and then go back to this LEDing, because as you see, it is quite tedious, but I think it'll look cool. When the lightning detector detects lightning, we have thunderclouds that'll be going off. We have this lightning bolt that's going to be going off. And then we're going to have lighting that's going to go on the actual frame of the window that's going to be going off. So we're definitely going to know when there's lightning. But we've also planned a couple lighting schemes for when there's no lightning, because sometimes, heck, 2 months will go by with no lightning, and then I'm just gonna have a boring thing to look at. Although it's pretty cool. We got a miniature, it's very pretty to look at, but it's just not gonna do anything. So we wanted to do something. And then after we button all this up, we're gonna start working on our actual control panel, which I'm gonna leave some space on it, and we're gonna make it look grungy, kind of like a Frankenstein knife switch. Old LED type buttons on it, indicator lights, but I'm going to leave space because I'm going to also then progress this into a full weather station. And I thought that would be a very cool project to have going on in the background as we move on to another project, because oftentimes you order parts, you make the best of plans, but sometimes it just doesn't work out and you need some kind of project to fall back on. So this will be the version 2.0s of everything we've built, will be kind of like the thing we fall back on. So let me grab, I think, what I need. I got some paints here. Let me grab this brush. A brush, I don't know which one yet I want, and my mixing palette, which is somewhere. I think it's down here. I'm gonna disappear on you guys for a little bit. And where you be at? Right here. I'm gonna grab this little guy here in case we need this. And a couple craft knives. I got like a whole bunch of cool things down here. And then finally, the, icing on the cake, if you will, is I'm ordering some cool little trees, grasses, flock, real miniature stuff. And I'm trying to find 2 of the tiniest little horses to put on top here, because, we have Frankenstein's tower, which is all dilapidated. Frau Blucher's quarters, which I gave her the biggest wing of the house. For her, I didn't hear any horses. All right. But I definitely want to put a couple horses for her because she is my absolute favorite young Frankenstein character, other than Gene Wilder himself. He's awesome, or was awesome, but because I watch so many of his movies, he's never left me. he's still around. All right. So I'm just seeing which brush I might want to use for this, probably this guy. And then Jill said, are you writing the software for this? And so the answer is yes. And it's still up on YouTube if you go to 2 streams ago, maybe, where we actually sit down and program this, and we sit down in front of a computer and we actually, look at the code, we dissect the code. So if you don't know any programming and you've never coded and you're like, I don't even want to learn coding, you don't have to. I basically just tell you all the important places where you have to change the values to get the effect that you want. So it's a very beginner friendly, because I'm a beginner too, So I basically streamed it and talked in an order that, heck, I learned it. I figured would be easy for you guys to learn as well. But as I get into more advanced things, then I'll definitely do more update videos. So let's see here. I'm trying to remember, just looking at this, what we did and what colors we used. And I may have to, fake my way through it. And then Eric Lewis says, Silver Streak, my fave. David Beck is adding some carousel horses. So I know what he means. The horses for FB. We're going to call her FB because I don't think horses can spell. So we can probably get away with that. So I'm going to start with some raw sienna, and we're going to channel our Bob Ross. And one thing I always say, when I first watched his tutorial to paint, this other thing here that we painted, one of the things he keeps repeating is that there are no mistakes. There's only happy little surprises. And the first time I heard it, I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. You haven't seen me paint, or build projects. But it turns out that he was actually quite right. We have had a lot of oops moments that have turned into some pretty cool things here. So I'm quite excited to tackle this because it's a different attitude and it actually works. He was actually right. I was really gunning to prove him wrong, but bad move. Bob Ross always wins, and I get that now. So I'm not gonna try and prove him wrong ever again. He's a good guy, or was a good guy, but still, as long as you can still watch and be inspired by him, he's still here. So I have this color, let's see what I got going on here. Whoop. So I have this, and this is raw sienna. And I'm trying to get a neutral tan, and this is a little clay tan. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but clay tan. So let's maybe mix in a little bit of this titanium white, but it's an unbleached, so it's like a bone color. And if you recall, Bob Ross, well, he pronounces the H's, so it's titanium white. That is the Bob Ross correct pronunciation. And I'm going to put a little bit more of this raw sienna. I got to yapping with you guys and got very conservative in my paint. So I'm going to gloop a little bit more on there. And now I'm going to gloop a little bit of this guy, not too much, and see how that does. And I know I have some way of mixing all of this together. Let me see what I have here in terms of a spatula. Got a little one. All right. Now, very Bob Ross, except mine are dollar store plastic, whereas his was the real deal. And you guys may hear some of the dogs barking. If you haven't heard, I did get a St. Bernard and Bernese Mountain Dog mixed puppy a while back to keep our other dog, who is a rescue company, and they get along fabulously. And so that's one of the reasons where streaming started to become in the morning or any day that I could get, kind of a sitter for her. Because puppies, you leave them for 1 second, they're already chewing something. And so one day I thought, she's good. I think she's getting the hang of stuff. And I tried to stream with no puppy sitter, and that was a disaster. Some of you guys remember that. She chewed through power cords. She chewed up my Dremel handle. all the, like, I was like right here and she managed to do this, and so I was constantly getting up to deal with her. So I think now she is ready to graduate, and I don't want to jinx it or anything, so I'm gonna open the door in a moment just to kind of keep an ear on her and see if she's doing well. And hopefully, you know, we can go back to some night streaming now, because I know that works a lot better for a lot of you guys. To participate and stuff, although you can always catch the replays for a while before they come down. Now I'm going to add a little bit more of this, I guess this is a raw umber that I'm adding. Oh no, I lost the lid. And, oh, it's in front of me. That's very rare. All right. That's something else under the table here. So I have this large glass, tubular glass that I've been wanting to use for something. And I thought maybe a Jacob's ladder or something like that. But there's so much wax buildup on the sides of it that it's pretty gross. All right, so I think that's a kind of, it's less Play-Doh-y, I guess, is the word. So we're gonna go with less Play-Doh-y. And what I'm gonna do is heavily dry brush this entire area in this color. So rather than a very light for highlights, we're gonna go pretty heavy here, but not all the way heavy. And I'm just seeing, yeah, like more like that. The black is a little shiny, so it appears like white speckled to you guys, or at least it does to me. So let me find a little cubby where it can sit so you guys can see what's going on. And I'll get this started, and let me grab a paper towel. Basically for the extremes, I try and have everything I need like here, so it ends up on my feet, in my lap, and mostly on the ground where it falls. So let's see here. And that's some water, which comes in handy for soldering, as we found out last stream. That was the greatest coincidence ever. So all I'm doing is just wiping a decent amount, not all of it. For dry brushing, you would try and wipe out as much as possible. And all I'm gonna do is just kind of rub the brush over. See how it's, you still see a lot of black? This is just to start kind of giving it that initial color. And I'll just start with this little road here, where of course young Frankenstein first arrives at the castle. And I thought about putting the horses up here, just kind of waiting for the arrivals. And then I'm gonna paint down here. And the idea is for the raised edges, that might be a little too much. It's for the raised edges just to catch that color a little bit. And we're gonna continue to put Bob Ross's theory here to the test. And this is a different kind of foam than our castle. Our castle, I gotta tell you, I got it from the dollar store. It is foam core board. Remember those boards that we used to use for school, for presentations and things? That is all that is, and it's $1. And you can get any color foam core board, because all it is a piece of like paper, colored paper, that's glued on very lightly to the foam core board. So you just rip that off. That way you can texturize the actual foam, and you're rocking. So that entire castle there costs technically less than $1, because I still have that foam core board left. I have plenty of it left. So I thought that's great. You can make a ton of mistakes and not have to worry. And for the actual road, I think in here I'm going to use a lot of flock. But just to coat it, I'm going to put a heavy amount of this this brown here. Brown. Live. The words just come out, and sometimes they pronounce themselves in the funniest ways. It's almost like a Bugs Bunny. That's all, folks. Or the way he can roll those syllables. I can't do it on purpose. It's got to be done, you know. Whoop. Be nice if you guys can see what I got going on. And this has been a long project, but a good project, because originally, all these ideas come from you guys. Originally, I was just going to make that lightning detector. We were going to play around with some of the code, put it into a small pocket reader, you know, something that you can carry around in your pocket, and, you know, hence pocket reader. So today we're going to have a words day. I'm already warning you guys. It's an interesting word choice day. But anyways, I got an LCD screen for it and everything, and it was a rather small LCD screen because I really wanted it to be pocket size. And then the more we started talking about lightning and Frankenstein and all that kind of stuff, then I'm like, man, we just came up with a much better idea. And we figured, you know what, let's do a faux window where the lightning actually goes off when there's lightning, and we can make like a little meter at the bottom to tell you how far this lightning is. And that turned into, okay, well, instead of a flat drawing, wouldn't it be cool? Like, we were just going to do a Bob Ross entire painting and, you know, figure something out for the lightning, either glow in the dark paint, or we talked at one point about EL wire that would go down. And that's kind of like that neon looking wire, and use that. And I thought that would look pretty cool. And that turned into, okay, well, let's make this 3D. And, you know, what should the 3D be? And then I put it out there. Should it be the Munsters castle or the Munsters mansion? Should it be the Addams family? You know, after all, this had to be like a classic horror, you know, movie, or a classic monster movie. And you guys decided. It was a real close victory. But Frankenstein it was, and not just Frankenstein, but young Frankenstein. So that was fun to kind of research what that castle looked like. And that's when I found out it is pretty much the same castle that they used in the 1930s film. And David Beck saying, best lightning display ever. Weather stations we'll talk about for years. Yeah. Although not the most convenient one. This is not something that you would probably take on a field, you know, like a giant window running around. You can make it battery operated. You know, everyone has very convenient pocket-sized everything, which is kind of the direction we were going to go. But I think this is pretty way cooler, just like David was saying. And we can still incorporate all those other weather elements into our control panel that is going to, you know, control all this. And into our mood lighting. So the lighting can be, if it's like hot outside, the lighting can change color to reflect that. If it's raining, you know, without lighting, and it just happens to be raining, the lighting can reflect that. So we can come up with all kinds of lighting themes for the different weather. So we can incorporate, obviously, temperature, barometric pressure. I'm trying to think of like other weathery things to do, and come up with light schemes for it. So obviously those are the easy ones, and we have the lightning detector. So that's 3 things that we have. And I'm sure we can take an old voltmeter or something with a needle and convert it to use as an analog temperature detector. So we're not putting in like a digital screen. I want to try and not put in a digital screen for something like this, because it looks so Frankenstein-y, so old, vintage. And I'm going to make our panel look like it's rusting out. So I've been researching just a lot of like steampunk decor. I have some copper pipes that we can use. And one thing that we did with the Wrench Army, and that's our exclusive Wednesday streams for the Wrench Army members, was not only come up with a fog machine, but then come up with a reservoir, because we used a vape pen to create this fog machine, because I needed something tiny. I mean, tiny, that I can fit in that castle. And I didn't really find anything off the shelf. So one of the challenges with a vape pen is that the reservoir for it is really, really small. And if you don't watch it and that reservoir goes dry, well, you pretty much just ruin your vape pen. You burn out the coils. Luckily, coils are really inexpensive. You can get them and just keep replacing the coil. So then we came up with the ideas like, why don't we build an external reservoir for this thing? And, you know, so now we got thinking. And then it was like, well, why not just like a regular boring reservoir? Why don't we turn it into like a mad scientist